Hello friends, Maintenance Management, Block 2, Maintenance Resource Management. I, Manoj Rout, Assistant Professor, Operation Management, is going to present maintenance costings and budgetings. So objective of this session is understands the importance of maintenance costings and budgeting. Point 2, identify the cost element of maintenance. Point 3, classify the cost element. Point 4, understand the application of costings, budgetings in department level, sub-department level. Then prepare the budget of maintenance department. And the last objective we have, prepare the zero-based budgets. Moving to next ones. The next one is outcomes of today's sessions. So we have to identify different types of maintenance cost, then analyze the cost structure, especially reference to maintenance management, then recognize the impact of maintenance cost on overall business performance, then develop maintenance budget based and allocate resources efficiently within the budget constraint. And the last outcomes we have, that is evaluate and justify the budget proposal for maintenance activities inside the organizations for department as well as sub department levels. So let's discuss the maintenance budget and costings. So as far as concerned with the maintenance cost is generally is the total cost incurred in case of doing maintenance job and keeping maintenance organizations. So if you observe the most important costs of maintenance is directly belong to the labor costs, especially reference to wages of labors, and who are the direct and indirect costs we have identified. The treatment of cost association with other activities like construction cost. The next one is modification. The next we have rearrangement and the removal of building equipment and assessment depend upon the nature of job undertaken. So if you goes to the image, the first one we have that is known as labor cost. The next we have spare parts and material cost. Then in some cases, most of the industries are nowadays focus upon the known as maintenance vendor, which is done through the outsourcing of skilled maintenance workers to provide preventive or corrective actions. Then the cost of energies in case of utilities, and the next important part is that is overhead expenses. So the combination of labor cost, spare parts and materials, the maintenance vendors, the cost of energies in the form of utilities, and overhead expenses are combinedly form the total maintenance cost. So as far as concerned with the company objectives, you have to focus upon the most important that is known as maintenance cost and budgeting. That is means you have to focus upon good maintenance policies. So every organization have their own maintenance policies, which is denoted in the form of standard operating procedure of maintenance, and that should be incorporated with the maintenance and lost opportunity cost due to inadequate maintenance. So this is the overview of maintenance cost. I just reviews. The first important part is doing the maintenance job and keep the maintenance organizations. In that you have to reduce the cost in every aspect. Moving to next ones. So if you break down the total maintenance cost, it is of two types. The first one is direct maintenance cost and the second one is indirect maintenance cost. So most important that is known as content of direct maintenance cost are, the first one is labor cost, then contract costs, and the last one is the spare parts and material costs. So these are known as direct material cost. The second one we have that is known as indirect maintenance cost. The first one is lower product qualities, high energy cost, reduce asset lifespans, excessive maintenance. For example, you are doing excessive of that is known as oiling the machines, top up the gearbox number of time. These are basically considered under excessive maintenance. Or you are using lots of that is known as tasks and job which is involved in case of cleaning the machines. So in that cases, large amount of cotton waste and cloth are basically used. So next important part that is we have indirect maintenance cost, that means lost production hours. then waste resource, and the next important part is we have environmental issues, and the last indirect cost, which is directly involved with engagement of large quantity or large volume of labor safety risks. So these are the different breakdown of total maintenance costs. Moving to next one. The next one we have maintenance costings. So first we have to understand the overview of costing. So costing is a technique for estimating cost. So we have direct and indirect cost are there. But apart from direct and indirect cost, we have to focus upon the most important aspect of that is known as maintenance costing. That means we have to go for a proper investigations. The next one is we have to analyze recordings and classify an appropriate allocation or allocating expenditures to determine the cost of product or cost of service for a particular organization. So by comparing them against the standard or budgets, the next we have to conduct the reportings and recommendations. So if you go for maintenance costing, the first important part we have analyzing different costs, especially reference to direct and indirect cost. Then go for record keepings. So various source of data are there from the indirect cost and as well as direct cost. Then it should be go for the recognized classifying this indirect cost as well as direct cost and allocating the expenditure so that you have to reduce the cost as far as concerned with product as a service. So that is why the actuals that is known as maintenance cost should be compared against the standard budget which is previously defined by the organizations. So then after we proceed for the recognized budget, then properly reporting to the higher authorities and proper recommendations should be given by the top level of management. So this is the overall idea of maintenance costing. Moving to next ones, it renders the information for the management guidance for proper planning. The next important part we have operations. The next one we have control this and the decision making. So by taking the comparison between the actual work done versus the recognized budgetings, the top level of management is taking the decisions in case of proper planning. The next is they will conduct various amount of operational related activities, and if possible, they will go for control, and if not possible, they make higher set of that is known as decision making, especially reference to reduce the maintenance cost. So if you goes to the costing of the maintenance department, basically it is of three number of steps are there. The first one is collection and classification of maintenance cost. Then departmentalizations of maintenance cost. For example, power plant has if you take the cases of steel organization or integrated steel plant, so they have divisions, they have departments, they have sub departments. So in case of divisions, they can directly take the maintenance cost and it is forwarded to the department levels and department level to the sub department levels. Then absorption of maintenance costs. So these are the basic steps which is followed in case of the known as costing of maintenance departments. I repeat, the first one is collection of various source of data in the form of indirect cost of maintenance. The next one is direct cost of maintenance and properly segregation of this collected data into a classification modes for the identify in case of the known as department levels and appropriate the maintenance cost. Moving to next ones, the next one is the objectives or objection of the maintenance costings. The first one is costing help in minimize the cost by avoiding wastage at all levels. So being a good organization, you have to identify the various sources who are basically generate large amount of wastage so that your maintenance cost will be minimized. The next one is the costing is must for the maintenance department because each repair activity is required a huge of material labors. So nowadays it is very difficult to identify high skilled workers in case of labors. So in that cases and even labor cost and wages are also increased day by day. So being the maintenance department of a particular organization, you have to focus upon the most important aspect of maintenance cost, which is involved in case of purchase of spare parts, materials, as well as allocation of labor from one places to other places. The next third point, in the competitive environments, a manufacturer must know the cost of its activities and avoid the wasteful expenditures. So it is the duty of top level of management, middle level of management, as well as the functional level of management they must involve the cost reduction activities so that they can easily avoid the wasteful expenditure from their maintenance cost. Last point, the system will not expensive if it is introduced after taking account technical details and advice from the technical personnel for the of the maintenance department. So being go for the objections to the maintenance costings, it is the duty of different level of organizations. They must take the advice from the technical person who are expertise in case of reduce the cost of maintenance, and it is very much beneficial for the maintenance department, which is not lead towards a higher side of expensive maintenance for organizations. So these are the basics of your objection to the maintenance costings. Moving to next one, the next one, these are the factors which directly affect the maintenance cost. The first one is asset complexities. So in case of asset complexity, for example, a company use computer numerical machines. So in that cases, there are large number of spare parts are required in case of maintain or providing the maintenance to the CNC machines. And due to the complexity of spare parts, it directly or indirectly affect the maintenance of CNC machines. Similarly, if you take the example of automobile industries and take a case of a four-wheeler, in that cases, especially reference to engine maintenance, there are large number of complex parts are there. And these parts will directly affect the maintenance cost of the vehicles because the cost are the complexity of spare parts and their dimension is very complex so that it increase the cost of maintenance. The next one is age and conditions. So here it's the life of the equipment which are basically provide the maintenance and the condition of the that is known as equipment or machines that directly affect the that is known as maintenance costs. For example, you are using a pump for pumping water from one places to other places, and the process already lasted for more than 10 to 15 years. So in that cases, you have to take care. Large amount of that is known as maintenance cost would be involved as compared to the younger ones. The next one is use intensities. So if you use once in a time or once in a day, or you are continuously use this particular equipment and machines, that also affect the maintenance cost. The next one is preventive maintenance. So preventive maintenance requires large amount of documentations. The next important part is involvement of large amount of workers, laborers, and various amount of spare cost. Cost is also involved. So that also affect the maintenance cost. The next one is environmental factor. For example, there are lots of people are working in a noisy environment or polluted environment or dust environments. So due to higher site of dust, you have to take care about the that is known as various amount of maintenance work. So due to frequent maintenance work, that also affect the maintenance cost, especially due to the dusty environments. The next one is technological advance. So in case of upgrade technologies, it also replace large amount of old machines. And if you assign the new machines, in that cases, the maintenance cost is higher side. It is directly affect the maintenance cost. The next one is supply relations. So supply relations also affect the maintenance cost. For example, a plant is nearer to the market and one plant is far away from the markets. So due to the higher side of that is suppliers who are responsible for supply of raw, that is known as spare parts and that is known as tools and equipments, it also affects the maintenance cost. So I repeat, the factors start from the asset complexities. The next one is age and conditions, the use intensities, the preventive maintenance. The next one is environmental factors. The next one is technological advantage and the supply relation. These seven factors is directly affecting the maintenance cost. Moving to next one. The next one is collection and classification of maintenance cost. So it includes the cost which is incurring the large number of activities. So let's know what are the different activities involved in case of collection and classification of maintenance costs. The first one is cost of manpower and facilities. So as you know, in case of we are India is basically struggling to get highly skilled workers. So that is why to train this semi-skilled and unskilled worker to convert into skilled worker, there are lots of costs to be involved. So next one is cost of preventive maintenance. So if you go for preventive maintenance, you have to do a lots of coursework and that cost is also involved in case of classification and that is collection of your maintenance cost. Then cost of resources, machine materials have some amount of cost. Then cost of materials, then cost of purchase in store departments because they are vastly huge amount of documentations, and for documentation of various that is related to maintenance, lots of direct costs as well as indirect costs are also included. Then cost of stationery, then cost of subcontracting maintenance work, and the last one is cost of training and maintenance personnel. So these are the key activities which is involved in case of maintenance cost. I just repeat from the first one. The first we have cost of manpower and facilities. The next one we have cost of preventive maintenance, then cost of resources, cost of material, cost of purchase in store department, cost of stationaries. And if a company go for subcontracting of maintenance work, in that cases, cost is also involved. And to enhance the skill of workers from the unskilled level to skill level and skill level to highly skilled level, company implement large amount of training for the maintenance personnel. So in that cases, a large volume of cost is involved, especially reference to training of maintenance. Moving to next one, the next one is classification of maintenance costs. As we discussed, it is breakdown into two types, that is direct cost or indirect cost. But if you go for broad classification of maintenance cost, it should be classified into two types. The first one is general equipment maintenance cost, and second one is other the cost. So in case of general maintenance cost, we have preventive maintenance cost. The second one we have that is known as breakdown cost. The third one we have corrective maintenance cost. The fourth one we have spare parts and material cost. The next one we have lubricating or lubricants cost, and the last one is for cost involved in case of jig and fixtures. So if you goes to the first one, in case of preventive cost, what are the different costs is basically include. The first important cost we have that is known as routine maintenance cost. The next is routine inspection cost, shutdown maintenance cost. So as you know, in case of most of the industries or manufacturing organizations are take shutdown maintenance, it should be ranged from maybe 1 week or maybe 1 month or maybe 3 months, or in some cases, in case of large scale industry, they will take around 6 months shutdown maintenance. So whatever maintenance they will provide, the cost is directly involved. The next is planning and plant repair cost. So these are the four different costs is involved in case of preventive maintenance. And in preventive maintenance cost, the operator labor cost is also involved because they are directly involved in case of extra amount of hours to repair the particular machines. The next one is breakdown maintenance cost. In that cases, they will provide the breakdown repair cost. For example, we'll go for that known as repairing of a machines, repairing of a gearbox, repairing of a furnace, whatever that is known as cost is involved, they are under breakdown maintenance cost. So next one we have that is known as corrective maintenance cost. So under corrective maintenance cost, we have maintenance improvement cost, then cost related to qualities, output, and operabilities improvement cost. And here, in case of corrective maintenance costs, the safety, health, and environment improvement cost is also includes. Because those who are involved in case of highly that is known as hazardous areas or highly hazardous machines, in that cases, their safety and health also be considered, as well as the environmental condition is also considered. Moving to next one, the fourth one that is known as spare parts and material costs. So under spare part and material cost, we have individual equipment cost are there, and we have share cost are there. For example, you are using a that is known as blower machine. So blower machine is also used in case of mechanical departments. It is also used in case of electrical departments. So in that cases, both the department will share the cost, especially reference to maintenance cost. The next we have that is known as lubricant cost. So as you know, in case of small scale industries, large scale industry, or that is known as medium scale industries, any industries, these three type of industry are basically are vastly use large amount of equipment. So an equipments needed huge amount of lubricant in the form of grease, then gear oils, or maybe coolants are basically used. So that cost is directly included in case of lubricant cost. And the last one is if you goes to large scale industries, especially reference to indeed steel organizations, metal industries. So they go for continuous production. So for continuous productions, they are vastly using jig and fixtures. So these are basically used as a die, but the cost of jig is very much higher side because it go for mass productions or continuous productions. So these are the costs basically under the general equipment maintenance cost. Moving to next one, the next one we have other costs. So other cost means maintenance cost for building facilities, main plumbing, wirings. So let's discuss what are the different costs is included in case of other costs. The first one is supplementary equipment cost. The next one is cost of maintenance jig and tools. And the last one is general consumable cost. So these are the three number of costs you basically include under the other cost. So if you go for supplementary equipment, for example, for documentation, we are basically depend upon stationery. And for purchase of stationery, large amount of cost will be involved. And as you know, in case of stationery, is used by so many departments, starting from the purchase department, store department, production department, maintenance department, and as well as the administrative departments. The next one is cost for maintaining jig and tools. So as I told that jig and tools are basically outsourced by the companies. So in that cases, the cost is also involved as a maintenance cost. The next one is general consumable cost. So the most common general consumable cost, for example, lubricant, sorry, that is known as your cotton waste or any cleaning cloth is vastly used for many other departments. So these are the basic and broad classification of your maintenance cost. I will repeat. The first one is that is known as general equipment maintenance cost. The next one is other cost. So under general equipment maintenance cost, we have preventive maintenance, we have breakdown maintenance cost, we have corrective maintenance cost, we have cost of spare parts and material, then cost of lubricant, and the cost of the is known as chicken fixture. Similarly, if you go to the other costs, that is supplementary equipment cost, then cost for the maintenance jig and tools, basically those company who are outsourced the jig and fixtures. And the last one is cost of consumable goods, basically outsourced. So these are the broad classification of your maintenance cost. Moving to next ones, the classification of maintenance costs according to the natures. So under nature, we have materials, we have labors, we have overhead expenses, we have outside service provided are there. So if it goes to material point of view, the cost of spare parts, cost of tools, cost of equipments, and the lubricating oils as well as cotton waste are basically under the materials. The next one is labor cost. So the salary paid to the maintenance manager, officer, maintenance workers, and the supervisor, including the contributions to the provident fund and overtime wages, are under labor cost. The next one is overhead cost. So those department cost cannot be directly allocated to a specific job and operation. For example, store expenses should not be included in case of production department maintenance cost and should not be included in case of electrical department maintenance cost. So store expenses, then cost of training to the new employees, these are the basic overhead expenses. The next one we have that is known as outside services. So in case of outside services, a outside company basically supply laborers, they are supervisors, and they will provide the service, basically engage in addition to the source of the activities. For example, engineering service or engineer consultant, hire of tools and equipments are the example of outside services. So these are the classification based according to the natures. I repeat, under the nature we have that is known as materials, labors, overhead expenses, and the last one is outside services. Moving to next ones, the classification of maintenance costs. If you go to the according to the normalities, we have normal maintenance cost and we have abnormal maintenance cost. So for example, so in case of preventive maintenance are the normal maintenance cost, and in case of abnormal breakdowns are abnormal maintenance cost. Then if you go to the according to the maintenance sections, breakdown maintenance activities, we have plan and preventive maintenance activities. According to the controllabilities, we have controllable cost and uncontrollable cost. According to the behavior, we have fixed cost and variable cost. According to the impact of maintenance, we have direct maintenance cost. We have cost of standby equipments. And the last one, we have opportunity cost due to under repair. Moving to the next one, according to the type of budget, we have revenue cost and capital cost. So these are the different aspect of classification of maintenance cost. Moving to next one, the next one is departmentalization of maintenance costs. So under departmentalizations, so after the classification and collection of maintenance cost, the next step is distribution the cost to different processes, equipment, product, and departments. So it involves the allocations and apportionment of maintenance costs. So let's understand what are the different costs is involved under the departmentalization of maintenance. The first one is allocation of maintenance cost. The second is absorbment of your maintenance cost. And the last one is distribution of office and administration's overhead of maintenance departments. So under allocation of maintenance costs, the costs are directly estimated for different departments, which includes the cost of spare parts, wages of maintenance worker associated with one department, contribution to the provident fund, and the other prerequisites paid to the worker. For example, if you take the example of a integrated organizations who have number of departments, let's take the example of production department or a steel plant. In that cases, if you recall the scenario of steel plant, we have raw material handling departments, we have sponge iron divisions, we have steel melting shop divisions, and the last one we have power plant or captive power plant divisions are there. So under these four divisions, we have number of departments are there. For example, in case of raw material handling departments, we have process departments, we have mechanical maintenance department, we have electrical maintenance departments are there. So whenever you allocate the maintenance cost after collection and classification of maintenance cost, it is directly forward to the department levels or division level, from division level to department levels. So for example, as I told that in case of raw material handling department, they have process department. So process department, they have identified the cost of different spare parts who are directly associated with the process. And maintenance department is also identify the different spare part which is directly assigned to the raw material handling department. For example, they have number of conveyor belts, they have EOT cranes, they have different earth moving equipments. So depending upon the that is known as department levels, they will provide the various amount of costs related to spare parts. Then after the next one, we have maintenance workers. So those are the worker who are directly assigned with the that is known as department level and as well as in case of sub department level. So whenever you consider the maintenance cost of these workers, in that cases, they are provident fund as well as the prerequisite which is to be paid in case of this worker. For example, if a worker is go for extra 4 hours of work, the company will provide that is known as incentives or maybe bonuses. So that cost is also included in case of allocation of maintenance cost, especially reference to those who conduct the or those who provide the maintenance related work to that specific sub department as well as departments. The next one is absorption of maintenance costs. That means certain expenses such as salary of maintenance managers, maintenance staff catering to more than one department. And here consumables like lubricating oils, gloves, cotton waste are basically considered. So for example, here in this cost, it is basically focused upon the middle level of management, those who are basically go for inspections, collection, classification, plannings, and the next is taking control decisions. In that cases, even their staff are also includes, which basically cater higher side as compared to the department. So these are the different example of absorbment of that is known as maintenance cost. Moving to next one, the distribution of office and administrative overhead. For example, the store department as well as the purchase departments, as the administrative departments are basically under this particular cost. So if you goes to the office overhead of maintenance department shall be charged to different equipments, process and department on a suitable basis. Here come procedure is implementing such avoid the duplication and unnecessary work. For example, purchase department is go for that is only higher side of stationaries. and purchase a higher set of that is known as stationery. And this stationery is basically for the maintenance department. So whenever they go for distribution of office administrative overhead, so they go for that is known as implementing to avoid the duplications in case of unnecessary work for the department. So it ensures that the procedure provide timely information to both departments whenever they go for estimation of maintenance cost. So these are the departmentalization of maintenance cost. I just reviews. The first one is allocation of maintenance cost. The next one is investment of your maintenance cost. The last one is distribution of office and administration overhead maintenance departments. Moving to next one. The next one we have how to reduce the department maintenance cost. So if you observe this particular process, the process basically adopted by the maintenance department to reduce the cost in every aspect. So they are basically implement, prevent, inspections, plan, schedule, then execute, and if possible, they go for improvements. So under this process, they are basically use PDCA cycles. So P stand for plan, D for do, C for check, and A for act cycles. So this PDCA cycle is also applicable for your maintenance to reduce the maintenance cost in every aspect for a maintenance department. So this change must be broken by applying the preventive maintenance or, for example, if you go for prevention or inspections, so must apply the preventive maintenance. So if you go for corrective maintenance, that means you have to plan, schedule, and execute. And starting from the inspection to execute the different activities, this chain should be broken so that you can easily reduce the departmental maintenance cost. So let's take an example of a steel plant. If you observe this fast image on the top, so this is the process of making that is known as an integrated steel plant, where large amount of maintenance cost is involved. For example, in a steel plant, they have blast furnace, they have basic oxygen furnace, they have coke ovens, and whatever the flue gas is released, they are released to the power plant for power generations. So if you take the cases of in case of blast furnace, there are number of that is known as spare parts as well as that is cooling chambers as well as the raw material insert chambers are there, and even blasting chambers are there. So number of time whenever they go for production activities, by taking the prior approval from the maintenance department, especially reference to maintain higher side of safety as well as concern about the environment, they go for that is known as repetitive apply of refractories. So here the maintenance cost is involved in case of refractories, especially reference to blast furnace. Similarly, if you go for basic oxygen furnace, so here oxygen is basically used for that is known as making the steel production. So in that cases, they have to go for that is known as large amount of that is known as machines, equipments, as well as bearings, and movable parts are there. So here the spare parts equipment cost is basically considered as a maintenance cost in case of basic oxygen furnace. Similarly, if you go for coke ovens, so ovens are highly heat affected areas. In that case, you have to take large amount of refractories layers. So to maintain the refractory layer, the maintenance cost of refractory is also included in case of coke oven. And moving to the next ones, the steel plants are also proceed number of that is known as processes like your forging process, roll coil process, and even in case of power plant, there also include large variety of that is known as turbines are there, and turbines have more number of movable parts are there. So the different spare parts related to turbine as well as boilers are under the maintenance cost. So if you go for cost analysis, so we have that is known as other costs, like other processes are there. So that cost is known as other cost. Then financing cost, we have land cost, we have variable cost, and we have fixed cost. So whenever you go for to analyze the different costs, specific reference to productions. So if you understand this particular that is known as steel plant or steel production system, so we have the production process, we have equipment cost, we have maintenance charges, we have raw material consumption, utility cost are there, and other costs are there. In case of civil work, we have labor wages and depreciation charges are there. So these costs are given the better that is known as exposure for costing, especially reference to maintenance cost. So I hope it is clear to all. That means whenever you think about the metal industries, there are large number of and heavy machineries are used, and each and every machinery have different amount of spare parts are required. And depending upon the raw materials, the next important part is refractories, then movable part consume large amount of it in spare parts. These are basically included in case of maintenance costs, especially reference to steel plants. Moving to next ones. The next we have that is known as costing sheets. So in case of costing sheet, I have already given the example in the bottom. So it says that is simple template of a costing sheet, which includes the company name, then cost sheet template. For example, it belong to the mechanical maintenance department, or that is known as electrical maintenance department, and their total description should be there, and the amount should be given. So this is the primary cost, which is basically access to the department level. That means opening stock of raw materials, then purchase of raw material, then other purchase expenses like raw material utilized, direct labor wages, other direct labor expenses, and less closing stock of raw materials. So if you observe this particular sheet, it's a simple table in the form of consolidated statement of a maintenance costing, which is known as costing sheet. I repeat, it's a simple table form for consolidated statement of maintenance costings, which is known as costing sheets. So in this table, various activities are listed row wise and the element of cost are listed column wise. So to easy the determination, distribution and control of maintenance cost, and a suitable coding system should be established so that if someone is go through this costing sheet, he can easily understand that it's a consolidated sheet, and this consolidated sheet has a number of elements. That means the description of different costs related to number of element like raw materials, then labor costs, purchase expenses, direct labor, indirect labor costs, and stock of opening and stock of closing are there. So this must be prepared in keeping view of activities of organizations whenever they go for detail of costing requires. So this costing sheet goes from the sub-department level to department level and department level to division levels. So the clear visibility of the entire maintenance cost is communicated from the top to bottom levels. Moving to next ones. So if you observe this another that is costing sheets, that means a unit of activities are there, and the specific code is given as per the that is unit. Then capital is given, especially reference to labor, material, overhead, outside service, and revenue also segregated in the form of labor, material, overhead, and outsiders. So if you go for the coding, for example, production equipment to demolitions, the certain coding are given. For example, production equipment had 00, then plant and equipment is 1. And whatever that is known as capital involved, for example, labor wages, material purchase cost, material usage cost, overhead expenses, and outside service in case of labor or equipment that should be strictly mentioned. For example, they have the quantity of 200 tens and outsider is assigned 240s, and what are the cost is involved that is directly written in the case of column wise, so that one should easily understand this is a consolidated statement in the form of that is costing sheet. And whenever it should be communicated from the functional level to the middle level and middle level to the top level of management, they can easily understand the different aspect of maintenance cost involved in department, sub-department and division wise. Next one. So if you go for department levels, especially reference to those who are basically focused upon budgetings and costings, in that cases, for example, if you could take the cases of mechanical maintenance departments. So mechanical maintenance department, whenever you think about this department, number of equipments should be there. So we have the thickeners are there, belt feeders are there, solution heaters are there, sand filters are there, then steel tanks are there, pressure filters are there, then hammer mills crushers are there, and their hourly cost, daily operations, run days, yearly cost, maintenance cost, and yearly maintenance charges should be given, so that the clear visibility of your costing and budgeting, especially reference to maintenance cost, is visible from the department levels. Similarly, if you could take the example of electrical department, so in case of equipment, we will directly provide that is known as motors, winders, belt drives. The next one is that is known as motor covers. The next is lubricant. The next important part is that is known as windings. These are or maybe blower, and their hourly cost, daily operations, run days, then yearly cost, maintenance cost, and yearly maintenance charges should be clearly given. In that cases, they can easily, that is known as clear visibility from the functional level to the top level of management. So whenever they go for that is known as costing and budgeting of maintenance cost, there should not be any kind of duplication and replication happens. And if a duplication and replication will happen, that should be easily avoided from the department levels. So moving to next one, the application of maintenance cost. So costing make the first important point we have, costing make comparison possible. The next is a good maintenance costing provide costing systems. And if you go to the point number one, costing make comparison possible. So that means you have to go for the recording the costings regularly kept and make a comparative cost data for the different period and variety types of repair is available. So if you go for the comparisons in case of different department, for example, in a metal industry or manufacturing industries, there are number of systems are there, and each system they have mechanical maintenance departments are there. So whenever they go for the known as comparisons between the costings, they can easily go for different periods as well as with variety or various type of repair is available. The next one we have good maintenance costing systems. So it provide a complete and valid evaluations of not only the maintenance organization but also the production facilities. So whenever you involve yourself in case of that is known as maintenance departments, they have previously defined the SOP, standard operating procedure for maintenance as well as for maintenance costing system. So that whenever they go for validate and evaluations, in that cases, that is not only the maintenance organization, but it also include the production facilities. So the data should be repeated in the following information. The first one is broad analysis and summations. The next one is indication of trend or comparisons. The measures of incident of the breakdowns. The measures of relative volumes of planned and unplanned work. Abnormal costing arise from the unsuitabilities. Then measure of labor utilizations and performance. And the last one we have that is known as report of the costing, which basically followed the that is known as steps. The first one is labor control and productivity improvement, workload measurement. This is most important part, and that is why company are basically assigned the workload as far as A shift to B shift and C shift. In some cases, if you go for higher side of maintenance, they will provide extra hour of work. So the next one we have that is known as formulations of objective and policies, then production cooperations, staff department service, effectiveness of material control, then observance of the safety procedures, and the last one is housekeeping. So whenever you go for report of costings, that can be useful in the following manners. I repeat, the first one is labor control and productivity improvement, workload measurements. The next one we have formulation and objective and policies. The next one we have production cooperations, then staff department service, effective of material control, observance of safety procedures throughout the plant, and the last one is making housekeeping procedures so that you can easily implement the costing procedures. So these are the application of maintenance cost. The next one we have budgeting. So if you go to the fundamental concept of budgeting, so it's a detailed plan of operation for some specific future periods. So budgeting is most important parameter of your very own maintenance. So it is estimate prepare in advance of the period to which it is applied, and maintenance budget is the estimation of requirement of spare parts, manpower, consumables, and other expenses. So as you know, in case of spare parts, the prices are rapidly rise day by day, as well as in case of availability of manpower, and their wages is also increased day by day. And due to higher rate of that is known as price involved in case of that is consumable goods like cotton waste, gear oils, grease, and in case of office stationery, especially reference to other expenses. So that is why it is need to be make the estimation of requirement of these things, which is known as maintenance budgets for maintenance departments. So it's preparing to bring the efficiencies and economy in the maintenance activities. The maintenance management provide the information relating to the expenditure under the various maintenance classifications. So for example, the production management give the information related to production target, the plant equipment service as well as the service requirements. So that you can easily go for higher side of the known as maintenance budgeting before to implement any kind of the known as specific future period for a organizations. So moving to next one. The next one we have element of maintenance budgets. So we have that is known as when you create the maintenance budget for the first time, so you have to focus upon these five inputs for your maintenance budget. So what are the input? The first one is asset status. This is the most important part. The next one is original equipment manufacturers data, then historical performance of that equipment or machines, then the implementation of operation strategies. So operation strategy basically used in the form of long-term basis for the organization success. And if you go to the fundamental concept of strategy, so strategy is a plan of actions to achieve organization goals. So if you apply the operation strategy in maintenance, that means smooth flow of your raw material from one end to other end. And the last one is maintenance strategies. So by taking these five inputs, the asset status and original equipment manufacture data, then historical performance and operational strategy, and last one is maintenance strategies. So these inputs are vital for the maintenance budget, and it is basically helpful for estimating the technicians numbers. The next one we have resource allocations, tool and tooling requirements, spare strategies, and the financial expenditures. So this is the fundamental aspect of element who are directly involved in case of management or maintenance budgeting, especially reference to asset status, original equipment manufacture data, historical performance of machine and equipments. The next one we have operation strategy, and the last one we have maintenance strategies. So moving to next one, the next one is the factor consideration in case of maintenance budgets. So Ajay, we have already discussed this asset status. That means installation and commissioning of the new equipment in addition to training and new tooling cost. For example, you are install air conditioned machines or in your house. So installation and commissioning should be done, and after installation and commissioning, the company personnel basically provide the basic trainings. So same pattern of that is known as asset strategy is also applied inside the organization. So whenever they install a new machines, and after installation they go for commissioning work. So after commissioning they hand over this machine to the company personnel. So to run the machines, to set up the machines, and to increase the efficiency of machines, the company personnels are basically trained by the outsourced companies. So in that cases, the training as well as new tooling cost basically include in case of asset status. The next one is original equipment manufacture data. So the information supplied by the original equipment manufacturer is at the center of the method used to create the budget. So without the specification of that is known as your machines, which is earlier provided by the manufacturers, it is very difficult to go for that is known as maintenance budgets. The next one is historical performance. So here you have to understand the operating characteristics of your equipment's performance and fundamental reason for early failures. So if you have that particular data in the form of historical performance, you can easily go for that is known as maintenance budget. The next one is operation or operating strategy. The purpose of maintenance is to assist the company in accomplishing its production target. So that means you have to increase the staffing levels and increase the percentage of corrective maintenance so that the strategy or operation strategy is applied on behalf of your maintenance budget. The last one we have maintenance strategies. So when developing a strategies for equipment maintenance, so understanding the consequence that might result from a malfunction in each individual piece, have a strategy in place to promptly manage the failures. So when it occurs off machineries. So this developing strategies is only applicable for the that is known as equipment maintenance to understand the consequence of your maintenance activity so that if the failure of machine will be occur, you can easily rectify within the fraction of second or within the fraction of hours. So these are the factor considered in case of maintenance budgets. Moving to next one, the type of maintenance budget. So the type of maintenance budget is of two type. One is operating budget, another is project budget. So let's discuss about the operating budget. So this is the kind of budget evaluate each category of the operating expenses and projected for every department within the organizations. So it usually consists of at least four headings. The first one is cost of labors, then cost of required materials, cost of goods and technical resources, and the last one is cost of contract services. So these are basically consist, these four things are basically consist in case of operating budget. So if you go for the cost of labor consists of four concepts. The first one is annual fixed amount received by each department workers. Then staff cost includes staff transport to the plant. In some countries, the employer take care of the cost. Then organization with excellent management promote training among workers by subsidize the cost of trainings. And the last one is obligatory social cost for the organization. So these four costs are basically included in case of cost of labors. Moving to next one. The next one we have that is known as the project budgets. So under project budget, it is concerned specially projects such as major capital equipment purchase, major construction project. So the fund required for such project not included in the operating budget. They are basically divided into different categories. The first one is labor, the second one is material, and the third one is overhead expenses. Need to define the project. So whenever you focus upon project budget, the budget preparation approach are of two types. The first one is historical approach, and the second one we have that is known as zero-based approach. So let's understand what are the historical approach we have. It is easier to prepare and required relatively little paperwork should be done. So professionals are basically involved with this budget. For preparation approach, rely on the previous year experience to estimate the cost for the coming years. So this is known as historical approach. The next is in case of historical approach, most of the cases highly experienced professionals are basically involved to take the past data to predict the futures by the help of implementing the project budget in the form of historical approach. The next one we have zero-based approach. So under zero-based approach, it is very harder to prepare and consume more time for paperwork. And this is because professionals are expected to develop the budget from the scratches without any kind of reference from the past. So this is more efficient as current requirement or priority are given in justified fund. For example, a company required a pump for that is known as excavations of drainage water. So in that cases, there is no need to go for that is known as historical approach. Better to go for zero-based approach for that is known as smooth flow of various of that is known as organizations or smooth flow of drainage systems. So by taking the priorities, they have justified the fund from the top level of management. So moving to next one, the next one is zero-based budgeting. So as far as concerned with zero-based budgeting, it break overall demand for the maintenance and services into the constituents, that is asset or areas. So in your addition to the unit or asset list, a zero-based budget has allocation for certain areas. So they are hard to define as assets such as electrical system on pavements, or maybe that is known as your installation of that is known as transformer on pavements. So all this maintenance activity can be tracked back to one of the following eight demands. So what are the following demands we have? The first one is that is known as preventive maintenance, then corrective maintenance. The next is user maintenance. For example, mechanical department use. So mechanical department is a user maintenance. Similarly, electrical department is used. They are simply pronounced as electrical user maintenance. The next is seasonal maintenance, then replacement and rehabilitation maintenance, social demand, expansion, and catastrophes are the basic things which is needed in case of maintenance labor or material are expanded. So if you go to the next one, just review the things from the beginnings. So in the today's sessions, we are discuss the fundamental concept of maintenance cost, where the maintenance job or total cost is belong to the maintenance job. to keeping the cost reductions specific reference to maintenance organizations. And in case of maintenance, the labor cost, the spare parts and material cost. The next we have vendor maintenance, maintenance vendors cost and energy cost and overhead expenses are basically combined to form the total cost of maintenance. So whenever we go for the cost are associated, in that cases, more amount of activities or other activities are basically considered. The first one is construction of modifications, rearrangement, and removal of welding equipment. Asset depends upon the nature of job undertaken. The next one we have that is known as that is classification or normal classification of maintenance cost breakdowns. So these are for two types. One is direct maintenance cost and indirect cost. Under direct cost, we have labor cost, contract cost, parts and material cost. In case of indirect cost, we have labor, product quality, so lower product qualities, higher energy cost, reduced asset lifespan, excessive maintenance, lost production hours, then wasted resources, environmental issue, and safety risks under the indirect cost. So the next one we have that is known as maintenance costings. So maintenance costings are basically involved departmental wise. So it's a technique for that is known as ascertaining the cost. That means analyze, recording, classifying, allocating the expenditure so that your cost of product and service would be easily identified and compare them for budgeting, reporting, and recommendations. So for costing of maintenance department, three steps are basically included. The first one is collection and classification of maintenance cost, then departmentalization of maintenance cost, and absorption of your maintenance cost. So these are the objectives. So objections of the maintenance cost. The first one is costing can help minimizing the cost to avoid the wasted at all levels. And especially reference to maintenance department, they will provide the repair activities which use large amount of materials, spare parts, and labors. And in case of getting higher side of competitive advantage, you have to focus upon the manufacturing and what are the cost of your activities to avoid wasteful expenditures. And in some cases, the system will not be expensive if you go for technical details and take the advice of a higher set of technical person for the maintenance department. So these are the objections of to the maintenance costings. The next we have the factor affecting maintenance cost. That means asset complexities, age and condition of your equipments, usage intensity of your machine and equipment, then providing preventive maintenance to the machines and equipments, and the environmental factor. For example, noisy environment, dusty environment. These factors are also affecting the maintenance cost. The next one we have that is known as technological advances. So in case of technological advances, you have to upgrade the machine so that less amount of maintenance cost should be involved. The next one is supply relations. So to establish better industrial relation with the supplier so that uh, their supply should be in a frequent manner so that you can avoid the or reduce the maintenance cost in every aspect. So these are the factors which basically affect the maintenance cost. Moving to next one, the collection and classification of maintenance costs, which basically include the following activities that include the cost of manpower and facilities, then cost of preventive maintenance, cost of resources, cost of material, cost of purchase and store department, cost of stationaries, cost of subcontracting and maintenance work, and the last one is cost involved in case of training of maintenance personnel. So moving to next ones. So if you go for broad classifications, we have two type of costs are basically includes. The first one is general equipment maintenance cost, and the second one is other costs. So under general maintenance equipment maintenance cost, we have preventive maintenance cost, we have breakdown maintenance cost, we have corrective maintenance cost, we have spare parts and material cost, we have lubricant cost, and we have cost of fixing jig and fixtures. So if it goes to other, we have supplementary equipment cost, we have cost for maintenance jig and tools, and the last one we have general consumable cost. So these are the broad classification of the maintenance cost. Moving to next one, the next according to the nature, the maintenance costs are segregated into four types. The first one is material cost, the next one is labor cost, the third one we have overhead cost, and the last one we have outside services. So in case of material cost, that is spare part cost, lubricating oil cost, and cotton cost are taking the examples here. And in case of that is known as labor, the wages of your maintenance workers, maintenance manager, and their contribution towards provident fund and overtime are basically considered. In case of overhead, the store expenses, cost of training of new employee, cost of training to the specific technical personnel are basically the example of overhead cost. And the next one we have outside services. For example, engineering consultancy, engineering consultant and services, hiring of tools and equipments are the example of outside services. So moving to next one, the next one is classification of maintenance cost. According to the normalities, we have normal maintenance cost, abnormal maintenance cost. According to the type of maintenance section, we have breakdown maintenance activities, we have preventive and planned maintenance activities. According to the controllabilities, we have controllable cost, uncontrollable cost, and according to the behavior, we have fixed cost and variable cost. So according to the impact of maintenance, we have direct maintenance cost and cost of standby equipment. And similarly, the last one we have opportunity cost due to under repairs. And cost, maintenance cost according to the budget, we have revenue cost and capital cost are basically there. So next one is department of maintenance costs. So we have allocation of maintenance costs, specially reference to department, sub-department levels. And here the spare parts and wages of maintenance worker are basically considered. And their contribution to the provident fund as well as PGP side paid to the workers are basically considered under allocation of maintenance cost. The next one we have absorption of maintenance cost, that means a salary of maintenance manager, maintenance supervisor, maintenance staff, which is goes to more than department and consumer like duplicating gloves and cotton waste. These are the example of adjustment of maintenance cost. The next one is distribution of office and administrative overhead maintenance department. So these are the overhead of the maintenance departments. For example, so they will provide procedures timely to inform the both department and reduce the duplications on unnecessary work, so that there should be clear visibility of your maintenance cost from department level to sub department levels. So moving to next ones, the next one we have, that is how to reduce the maintenance cost, that is known as prevent, inspect, plan, schedule, execute and improve. So for first two we are basically implement preventive maintenance, and for last four we are basically applied the corrective maintenance. The next one we have the costing sheets. So in case of costing sheet, I have given the example here. So the company name, the department name, and total description of your cost should be involved. So moving to next one, in case of cost description, we can write the opening stocks and closing stock. In between them, you have to write the raw materials and your different descriptions should be there. Thank you.